From our 22 News Broadcast Center, this is 22 News in Focus.
Good afternoon and welcome to 22 News in Focus. I'm Ciara Speller. During the summer, most of us head outside for fun and adventure. And today on 22 News in Focus, we'll be discussing ways to keep healthy and safe during the summer, whether you're staying home or traveling on a vacation. And joining me to discuss ideas on how to plan for a safe vacation is Sandra Marzian, Vice President of Membership, Marketing, and Travel for the AAA of Pioneer Valley. Thanks for being here with us today, Sandra.
Pleasure.
According to AAA, nearly 49 million people are expected to travel during the 4th of July holiday, many people by cars.
Right.
Why are we seeing so many people on the roads for the holiday?
And here in the state of Massachusetts, 1.3 million people will be traveling, and 1.15 of those, 1.15 million of them are going to be in their cars. So the percentage for Massachusetts is even higher of people traveling by car. I think traditionally people love their great American road trips, so that's one of the big reasons why people like to go in the car. But certainly it's much more economical for families to jump in the car than have to deal with buying airfare tickets, which can get costly, especially if you have a few kids you're traveling with as well. And it's just great to get out there while we have the nice weather. So that's a big part of it as well. And it certainly doesn't hurt that gas prices are lower for this 4th of July holiday than they were last year, by, in our area, about 13 cents a gallon.
And so are you seeing an increase in bus and train travel trips as well?
Yes, that's up slightly, not as significantly as air travel and car travel are for this year, but we have seen an influx of people traveling other modes, as we refer to it. People are even taking cruises because there's so many great ports they can jump to around here, whether it's Boston, New Jersey, or New York. You can take a cruise right out of here pretty locally. So people are taking advantage of that. And then Amtrak also has some great train vacations that people can take. So, and as well as bus trips that are out there where you can leave the driving to somebody else and the planning to someone else. You can just sort of sit back and relax and engage with your family.
Right, and so, we were just talking about being on the road, so many people being on the road, of course, breaking down. That's something that people should be prepared for, and how can they prepare and make sure that if an emergency happens, roadside assistance, they're prepared for that?
Absolutely. We're expecting probably about 16,000 breakdowns just this week alone due to the expected travelers for this holiday. And of those, we're seeing a significant amount of them ending up being in tows. To prepare yourself, it's really important to make sure that your car's had a vehicle maintenance inspection recently and that it's in good repair. If you have any issues with your car, to make sure you get them fixed before you leave. And it's also really important to check certain things on your vehicle. Make sure your windshield wipers have been replaced within the past 6 months or a year because they start to wear down, and visibility is important in case you get inclement weather. Make sure your windshield wiper fluid is full, all your coolants are at the proper levels based on what your owner's manual suggests. Those are certainly things that we always suggest people go through. And most important thing is probably your tires, to make sure that they're properly inflated and the tire treads are in good shape as well. The one thing that we see a huge influx in terms of road service calls this time of year is batteries. So to make sure your battery is properly charged, in good shape, and doesn't need to be replaced before you head off on a long road trip.
Right, and so during the winter, we stress the importance of having an emergency kit, blankets, things like that. But what about the summer? What should people have in their cars?
It's slightly different in the summer, but really what only differs are the core things that you want to have are your jumper cables, flashlight, some type of item that makes you visible to passing by cars, such as a caution triangle or flares. In the winter we would say have a blanket or something that you can bundle up in if you need to leave the vehicle. This time of year, it's more important to make sure you have water with you. Always have a cell phone that's properly charged if you can, so you can reach out for help if needed. But usually this time of year, it's really more about keeping hydrated and staying cool if you have to be on the side of the road for something that might vary as to what you would bring in the winter time.
And when should somebody consider maybe renting a car?
We do have customers at AAA that will come to see us to rent a car for their road trips. Usually their reasoning for that is they want to drive something that's maybe more economical on fuel, or that may be a hybrid to help save them money. Their car may not be in good repair, so they don't even want to deal with the potential of breaking down. So they try to get something that might be a newer model vehicle. And then also just to avoid the wear and tear on their own car. And some people don't have a car that maybe can accommodate everyone they're traveling with, so they opt for a larger vehicle.
Right, and we see construction during the summer months, so that's obviously something that drivers need to be aware of. What are some steps that they can take to make sure they're staying safe on the road when they're traveling through construction zones?
That's a good point, in that it's really important for people to allow themselves more time to get where they're going, understanding that even though construction may be ceased for the holiday component of the travel, that it will start up thereafter if your vacation is extended. But regardless, some of the setup remains, despite the fact that construction may not be going on. So you may see some of the barriers still there, and it does still create a hazard. So people need to continue to slow down in those areas and be safe, even though there may not be people actually working at that time.
And in terms of safety, if somebody were to break down on the side of the road, what are the steps that they should take to make sure that they're staying safe, passengers in their car as well as other vehicles?
Well, I would suggest that if they're able to get their vehicle to a safe spot and it's movable by driving it to a safe spot, to pull over into an emergency breakdown lane, if one exists where they're at, to pull over as far as they possibly can, and to get themselves out of the vehicle and away from it, because oftentimes another oncoming car can strike that vehicle, and you don't want to be have more extensive or physical damage to your person by being near the vehicle as it gets hit. So to try to move everyone away safely and then call for help if you're able to do so.
Right, and then so safety for tow truck operators as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a perfect time to remind people that the slow down, move over law exists. People are expected, when they see emergency vehicles, whether it's a police car or an emergency vehicle or a tow truck, that they should be moving over if it's safe to do so, and minimally they should be slowing down, because there are people on the side of the road that could be changing a tire on the left side of the vehicle that may be exposed to the roadways. And we've had, drivers injured by incidents like that. So it can be dangerous.
Right, and so how about just, again, making sure that you have the things that you really need in your car if you're about to take a very long trip across the country maybe, or visit some family for the 4th of July?
I mean, other things that people suggest is, if you're traveling with children, to try to keep them occupied so that they're having a good time, they're peaceful in the back seat. You don't want to be distracted by hijinks, which can sometimes ensue with kids in the back seat of a car on a road trip. So to bring games for them to play, or some people are fortunate enough to have a car that may have a movie, so they could bring some movies for them, or some sort of gaming device to keep them occupied. Or even sometimes it's just coming up with games for them to play, whether it's license plate games or I Spy type of games to play on the road, so that the kids are kind of engaged and not getting frustrated in the back seat of that car.
Right, and how important is it for you to be fully aware and alert behind the wheel? Maybe you're packing for a trip, you're tired, you didn't get enough sleep. What would you say to drivers?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the main things is definitely to try to get a good amount of sleep, but certainly people know the earlier start that they get, the less traffic they sometimes can encounter. So certainly allow yourself to take some breaks as needed, so that you can move around and get the blood pumping again. And also to make sure that you're, as I mentioned before, allowing yourself enough time to get where you're going, so you don't get stressed out and then feel the need to perhaps increase your speed in a way that's not safe.
Right, and so what are some of the signs that you might be too tired to be behind the wheel? Some people might open the window, they might, maybe pull over for coffee.
Right. Definitely, if you just feel yourself not focusing on what you're doing, if you find that you realize that you've gone further. And have you ever been driving somewhere that you've driven 100 times and you realize, wow, when did I get to this point?
Right.
That's when you realize that you're not focused on what you're doing, or you're really tired. And that's kind of an example of saying, wow, if you think that you've missed a few moments or milestones when you're driving, that's kind of a sign where it's a good time for you to switch drivers. And that's another plan to have ahead of time, is to plan some stops on your route ahead of time where you're going to switch seats with another driver if you have someone who is licensed to drive in the vehicle on your trip as well.
Right, and so definitely, don't be blasting the music, things like that. If you feel yourself doing that, then you're probably too tired to be behind the wheel.
Absolutely. And in terms of one of the most dangerous modes of distracted driving is certainly being tired, and there's also people's phones. We certainly urge people to put down the phone if they need to be on the phone, to be using a hands-free device, albeit not a law yet here in the state of Massachusetts. We as AAA certainly urge you to focus on the road and what you're doing. Too many accidents are being caused by people either texting, even just putting in the directions while you're driving to your destination can be very dangerous. And this time of year, with so many people engaging in the hoopla of the celebration of Independence Day, make sure you have a designated driver planned ahead of time so that you know that you and everyone that you love that you're traveling with will be safe, and you're also protecting all the other people on the roadways by doing so.
All right, and emergencies can happen while you're on vacation, so find out how to be prepared when we return. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. Today we're talking about how to keep yourself and your family safe during the summer. We talked about how to plan for a road trip, but for people who plan to travel by plane, bus, or train to another country, there are other safety measures to consider. So Sandra, what should someone, or why rather, should someone consider travel insurance?
Travel insurance has become increasingly more popular amongst our clients, and something that I think we urge even more so than we used to, just because of the nature of the travel industry today. There's so many things that can happen, ranging from a weather event, an event overseas, or even just personally to you that may make you feel like you need to change your plans. So there are two different kinds of travel insurance. There's travel cancellation insurance, and there's travel medical insurance. And then there's also plans that you can purchase that combine the two. I can give a recent example of something that happened to one of our clients recently, where they were on a vacation and they were trying to decide whether they wanted to cancel or not. And the kind of insurance they bought allowed them to cancel for any reason. So it really didn't matter what reason they had. One of our representatives likes to just explain it to us as, if you got a bad haircut the day before you're supposed to leave, you can still cancel your trip. So there are plans like that where you're just not sure if maybe you have a family member who's sick and you're afraid that they might need you to care for them or they may pass away. It allows you to buy insurance so that you get your money back from your trip, which is a positive thing. There are also the kinds of packages that you buy because you yourself may be sick. You may have a known health issue, and you may have a bout with that, and you may want to get treatment while you're away. Obviously, our US-based healthcare does not apply when you leave this country. So all bets are off there. So that's why it becomes really important to have a medical insurance plan that will cover you elsewhere. Some plans will even cover your transport back to the United States if you say, hey, I don't necessarily know if I want to have my medical treatment done in this country that I don't know. I want to go back to my doctors. There are some plans that will cover you to get you back home. We had an incident with some clients that were away, and on their trip, one of them had an injury. So they came back and said, hey, we bought the cancellation insurance, but was there any medical coverage? And they didn't even know, but they were able to recoup $5,000 because there was an emergency medical expense component to their insurance. So that's, it gives people a lot of peace of mind, and oftentimes the price of it compared to the total amount that you paid on your trip is pretty insignificant given what it does cover if you were to have an unexpected issue or something happens and you feel the need to cover. One thing that's important to note is that you usually have to buy such packages within 14 days of making your initial booking.
Okay.
And if this issue occurs between those 14 days and you haven't booked it yet, you can't come in and then purchase it. You have to have the insurance before you can utilize the benefits of it.
Okay, good to know. And what about a checklist of what to bring with you if you are traveling outside of the United States?
Okay, things that you definitely want to bring with you. If you're traveling outside the United States, obviously the most important thing will be your passport. And depending on where you're going, you'll want to research whether a visa is required to where you're traveling as well. And the State Department has a great website, which I believe is travel.state.gov, that you can go to, and they have a lot of tips up there, travel advisories and warnings that you can refer to if you have any concerns about where you're traveling to or just want to be in the know. And what I always suggest, and they'll also help you find out if you really need a visa or not, and how to go about getting a passport if you don't already know. We at AAA can get you passport photos and give you an application to fill out. So that's a way that we can help you with that. And if you're also going to another country, I always suggest to clients, make a photocopy of your passport and give it to the person you're traveling with, and vice versa, so that if you were to lose it, you have some component of what the content of that document was, so that if you need to go to your local U.S. Embassy for support, you have a copy of that. And that's also a good thing to be aware of before you go, is where is the U.S. Embassy located? What is their contact information? Keep that handy in case there's some unforeseen reason that you need to go there. And you can also sign up for what is called the SMART program, also can be found on that same website, where you can also connect with all the embassies prior to you going. And if they need to reach out to you for some reason, they can do so. And you will also be notified of any advisories that you need to know of along the way.
Okay, and how about in terms of, making sure that you are prepared physically for your trip? We're seeing people coming back sick, or even we have had the measles outbreak and the flu was really bad. So making sure that you're physically prepared to take a trip.
Well, there are two things that I always do. I start with first researching the place that I'm going to and trying to figure out, is there sort of a known condition that can happen to people, whether it's, hey, in Peru, I know there's altitude sickness, let me make a mental note of that. Or if I'm going to Mexico, I know there's certain kinds of water I don't want to drink. So making note of what those kind of commonly known things that can make you sick are. And then I like to make an appointment with the travel nurse at Bay State. It's part of the infectious diseases unit there. And you can make an appointment, I believe it's Monday through Thursday, and you meet with the travel nurse there, and she will help you if there's a certain vaccine that you need for something that's known to be in the country that you're visiting. She will arrange to hook you up with the vaccine. If there's any prescriptions, I went to Mexico once and she gave me a prescription for Cipro, which helps if you were to get sick from water. It prepares you so that if I go, hey, I've done everything I possibly can to protect myself before I depart. It's a great service. There's certainly a fee for it, but again, some of these investments that you make, when you put such a big investment in both the personal time that you're taking off and the money that you're expending to go on this vacation, to make sure you're going to be as healthy as you possibly can to enjoy it, is worth, I think, the extra cost if you're able to afford that.
Right, and let's say that you don't insure your trip and you do become ill while you're abroad. What steps should you take?
That gets tricky. I mean, really in a situation like that, you have to find the nearest medical center. And again, the reason why I would always want to get the travel medical insurance is I'm not particularly sure, how comfortable I am, how well everyone speaks the English language, again, depending on where you're traveling to, so that you can even properly convey to them what your ailments are. So again, some of the extrication services that you can purchase as part of your plan is really important. It's certainly good to let someone at home know that you've fallen ill and where you're going and where you're going to be and how you can be reached. And then I think it's also helpful to reach out to anybody else that you feel needs to know. And if you also need resources, there are certainly websites hopefully you can access if you need to find, maybe I want to find a better medical facility, but you may not always be in the physical capability to make those choices for yourself.
Okay.
So that's why it's wise to plan in advance and to make sure you bring information, if you did buy travel insurance, all the contact information with you so that if you need to reach out to someone, you have it. And when traveling overseas, I also like to suggest that people get foreign currency. You may feel like, oh, I don't need that. I have a credit card that has 0% foreign transaction fees. I don't need any cash. Not everywhere takes cash. And also, if you find yourself in an emergency situation, it's good to have some of the local currency on you, right, in case you need to use it.
Right. And in terms of currency, some credit card companies, if you don't notify them that you are going out of the country.
Yes.
So what steps should people take?
Yes, absolutely. I always call the credit card company before you leave and to let them know. They'll ask you your dates of travel. They'll ask you where exactly you're visiting. They'll also set you up for alerts just to let you know if there's been any unexpected usage of your card. We at AAA do have a credit card that offers 0% foreign transaction fees, so a lot of customers like that. And by letting them know in advance, it just protects you a little bit more. I've forgotten in the past and then had my card locked down because they thought there was fraud.
Right.
So that's another reason why it's really important to share that information, because if you want to use it, you don't want to be restricted from using the card. In relation to that somewhat is another thing that we're finding an increase in for our customers when they travel outside the country. If they're driving and they want to rent a vehicle while they're over there, we're finding that it's becoming more required that you have an international driver's permit.
Okay.
And really all you need to do, we issued them at AAA. You can come in, you get a picture taken. I believe they're reasonably priced. It's around $20 or $25 to get one of these, but they're required because it proves that you have an authenticated license here in the United States. And also, let's say you were speeding in Ireland or something, and,
Right.
and the police stopped you and they said, we're going to take away your license. You can give them the IDP and keep your U.S. license in your possession so that you don't lose that and go through the expense of having to replace it.
All right, thank you. Really important information. After the break, we'll be talking with the Red Cross about summer health and safety. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You're watching 22 News in Focus, and today we're talking about ways to keep you and your family safe and healthy over the summer. Accidents are bound to happen, but there are ways to reduce risk and to be prepared when something may occur. Joining me now is Lloyd Zeal, Chief Communications and Marketing Officer for the American Red Cross of Massachusetts. Thanks for being here with us today.
My pleasure.
So from bee stings to allergic reactions, heat emergencies, and even heart attacks, any number of accidents and emergencies can occur every day. What are some of the best ways for people to be prepared during the summer if something like this were to occur?
You know, I have the best job in the world because I get to talk about how people help people, right? And making sure that we have some level of knowledge to be able to respond when something like that happens is so important. You know, I always say, when you're in trouble, the likelihood of somebody helping you, they probably won't be wearing a badge. And that means that your family, your friends, your in-laws, the importance of having a basic concept of safety, of some safety training is so important. You know, we do all of these activities all summer long. We're swimming, we're going camping, we're out in the woods. Sometimes we're not real close to things that we need to recover in that kind of a situation. So it's just really important for everybody to kind of have a basic knowledge of what to do in case of an emergency.
Right, so basic first aid.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what are some of the things that people should know?
Well, you know, you can take a class at redcross.org to get first aid certified, but it's important because you want to be able to respond to somebody having trouble with their airway, or
Right.
somebody who falls down and gets hurt, or somebody who, you know, any number of things. And first aid training helps people sort of get comfortable with when that happens. You just don't want to panic.
Right, and so what type of supplies should be in a first aid kit? You're going camping, you have a kit, you know, what should be in there?
Sure. So there's a lot of things that are really kind of germane to your own family. So if I've got somebody that needs special medications, you want to make sure that some of that is in there. Some pain reliever, bandages, antiseptic, you know, maybe a sling or something like that. Things that you're going to need if you're not out there. Depending on what the needs are of your family, you know, sometimes you might want to put something in there for your pets as well. You know,
Right,
if your
that's
pet's on
important.
medicine or something. So just kind of thinking ahead of what could happen, and what are the kind of special needs that my family needs to be able to go out and do that. It's really important, and it just takes a couple minutes to do.
And how important is it to be CPR certified, or just even know, you know, the basics of CPR?
You know, it's a great comfort level. When you're out with your family and you're someplace at a park or at a beach or at a theme park or something like that, just knowing that you and the rest of your family have a certain basic element of training to be able to respond if something happens around them, it's just such a great peace of mind. You know, and it just only takes a few hours to get certified in first aid and CPR. I mean, if somebody goes down because of a medical issue and they need their airway cleared and they need to have rescue breaths and chest compressions, just knowing that you can be able to do that and rather than stand confused when something like that happens is so important.
Of course, and how often do you offer courses for CPR?
So you can go to redcross.org/take a class, and it has it pulls up by your zip code where you want to look. It pulls up the available classes that are coming. Classes are, I was looking at the classes in my hometown here yesterday, and we've got a class almost every single day for the next week. So it's really up to you. And just have a look at that site, and you can see what kind of classes there are, what you're going to learn, and you can really just kind of go through and get caught up on things that you need to know so that you can be safe.
Right, and so for lots of teens and older siblings, their first job is taking care of that younger sibling. Do you offer any sort of babysitting classes, anything like that?
So we have a great babysitting class. People can take it in a number of different ways. They can take it online to a certain degree, and they can also take it in person. My niece took it in person, and she loved it. What happens is it's a bunch of teenagers that get together, and it teaches kids things that really make them stand out in the babysitting world. You know, it's things like what kids at different ages like to do to pass the time, how to deal with children's emotions. It even teaches, part of the class even teaches them how to run their business, you know, resumes, and how to get the word out, how to talk to their parents' friends and say, hey, I'm babysitting now. It really sets them up for success. So it's a great program for anybody, boys or girls, to be able to come in, and just gives them a basic level of knowing how to deal with kids, how to deal with kids of different ages, teaches them basic first aid for different ages of kids. And again, if you're going to leave your kids with somebody, it's just such a great relief to know that the babysitter has that kind of training.
Right, of course. And so with the warmer weather, many people might be going to concerts, amusement parks, things like that, where there will be crowds. What suggestions do you have, you know, in terms of crowds?
So I don't want to sound like a broken record, but every time we say it, it's have a plan, right? So in case something happens, you want to have a muster point. You want to have a place where the family can get together, where we can say, if something happens, we're going to meet back at this place, whether it's an entry gate or whether it's the car or something like that, just so that you know that you can look around and see if anybody's missing. Also, having ways to communicate. Do all the adults have cell phones? Does all the adults have each other's cell phone numbers so they can text each other or call each other in case somebody gets separated? And also the same as almost every kid has a cell phone now too. So they should certainly share those numbers as well, just to make sure that people can reach out to each other and be able to find each other. But there's also things like, if you're going to events, that make sure that you check the event venue. Can I bring a cooler in here? Is that allowed? Can I bring a backpack? What are security measures going to be before I go in? Doing a little bit of homework up front, again, preparedness, doing a little bit of preparedness up front, just to be sure that all the local laws are being followed, all of the local security measures are being followed, and what to do in case of an emergency. It's just a great peace of mind.
Right, and so let's talk about bike safety. Of course, that's really big during the summer, and you know, we've even seen, you know, some tragedies happen with motorcycles and things like that, lots of accidents. So what are the rules of the roads?
Well, the best place to get information is from the National Travel Safety Board, right? So getting online and seeing what, you know, a lot of people don't know which side of the road I'm supposed to ride on if I'm on a bike. You know, you see different people following different rules of the road. So get online and make sure that you go to the Travel and Safety Board to make sure that that you're following the law, number one. Number two, always wear a helmet. I mean, it's just kind of something that, especially, you never know what kind of thing you're going to run into. You know, a lot of times people are perfectly fine, but they run up on a pothole or something like that, and that might cause them to take a spill, or they might try to avoid it, which sends them out into traffic. So anytime that there's a biker around, it's also important for drivers to know. You know, you can't just keep driving and say, that's a biker and I'm not going to pay any attention to them. They're part of your world now, so you have to be careful. You don't know what's going to, if a dog comes out to chase them, they might try to avoid it and end up in your lane. So there's just a lot of, again, thinking clearly, thinking slowly, thinking about things that could possibly happen, and just being on your guard.
And reflective clothing, things like that, always going to help you.
Sure, absolutely. Lights, and not riding at night if you can possibly help it, because it's just, there's too many things that can happen. But you're right, reflective clothing and lights are so important.
Okay, thanks. Really good information. And we'll continue our conversation with the Red Cross about summer safety after a short break. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. Today we're talking about ways to keep healthy and safe during the summer. The hot days ahead will bring a new type of danger potential, heat-related illnesses. Of course, getting really warm outside, important for people to know what can happen if they're not taking the right steps in the heat.
You're right, and it sneaks up on us, right? Because if you're not staying hydrated, if you're exerting yourself in the heat out in the summertime, you never know how your body is going to react. You might not have enough fluids in you this particular day. A long time ago, when I was in high school, I actually got heat exhaustion during a football practice, and I didn't know it had hit me. It wasn't particularly warm out. It was in the 80s. It was humid, but I was exerting myself. We were exercising. We were running around. That brings your body fluids down. I mustn't have been staying hydrated, and I went down, passed out. That's a problem, and knowing the difference between heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke is important, right? So being able to look at somebody and basically, if they're losing consciousness, you need to call 911. You need to get them some help and get them cooled down. But even heat exhaustion and heat cramps, get them out of the sun, get them to calm down, get them to stop the physical exertion or something, get them some water, and watch them. Take some time, depending on their age as well, whether they're older senior citizens or whether they're really young kids. It can happen to everyone. So just having a look at their skin, sometimes heat exhaustion will come up where your skin will get really ashen color or really red. And then during heat stroke, it can be really flushed red, but it can be dry. So you can look it up online and just see what some of those telltale signs are, but usually it'll be somebody who's dizzy, and if they start to vomit, it's a problem. Get some help right away.
And so maybe they're feeling a little sick and then they get out of the sun, they're feeling a little bit better, but then these symptoms come back. What should they do? Sure,
you need to keep an eye on folks, right? So if it's something that, if they start to feel poorly, if you have time to get to an urgent care, do that. But if they decline rapidly, call 911. Don't take a chance at this because it's something that can really hurt someone.
And how can you reduce your risk of developing a heat-related illness?
So taking it easy outside, right? Taking it easy in the heat. And also something that I want to make sure that we cover today is check on people that you know that might be older, that might be at risk of heat exhaustion, who might not have air conditioning in their house. We're in the Northeast, and there's a lot of people that don't have air conditioning in their house. They've lived there for a long time, and they just kind of figure it out on their own. Having a plan for them to say, you know what, maybe today you should go walk around in the mall or something to just stay cool. So checking in on folks and checking in on even your kids that are playing outside, checking in and making sure that they're having something to drink, making sure that they're taking a little rest, and staying in the shade a little bit. Just some activities to be vigilant.
Right, and so on a really warm day, you might want to go for a swim, but maybe you don't know how to swim. What should you do?
This is another thing that I like to talk about all the time, is that if you can get your family to have basic water competency, it's such a relief. It's knowing that your child or your loved one or your parents have the basic skills that if they get in trouble in the water, they know how to float, they know how to reposition themselves in the water, they know not to panic. Just knowing that my family can be able to do that is such a relief. So making sure that you can talk to a local pool or a local swim instructor that teaches Red Cross curriculum, and they go through those basic water skills in addition to learning to swim competently or become a lifeguard. But basic water competency are just things that, again, we live in a state that's got a lot of rivers, it's got a lot of lakes, a lot of bridges, and a lot of people, like you said, want to cool off and take a dip. And knowing some of those basic rules is just going to be so helpful for people.
And does the Red Cross offer swimming lessons?
So Red Cross rechecks our curriculum every 5 years to make sure that we're keeping up with the science on all of our training. So the answer to your question is yes. And you can go on redcross.org/take a class, and if you look up swimming or lifeguarding, according to your zip code, you can find a local authorized provider or a pool that's teaching Red Cross curriculum. And it really is the gold standard for swim curriculum, because that's what a lot of pools ask their lifeguards to be Red Cross certified. So it's really good curriculum, and it's really important for people to have that knowledge. change.
Right, and so for homeowners who do own pools, maybe they're going to be having a party, preventing accidents from happening, it only takes a second for something to happen in a pool. So what can they do to make sure that their pool is safe for everybody?
It's true, and it only takes a minute for something to happen around a pool. You know, they were saying, I read something that in the time that it takes to answer a text or put on sunblock, somebody could drown in that amount of time. It doesn't take long at all. So the first thing that you really need to do is look online at there's a website, and it's escaping me right now. But if you look up pool barriers, there's a lot of organizations that show you what kind of barriers are good for you to have, and that will stop young kids from getting in the pool. But you know what? A pool barrier doesn't do any good unless you use it. Make sure that those doors on those pool barriers are locked, or the ladders are pulled away from the pool edge, or there's a lock on the pool ladder, something like that. There's on the Red Cross website, there's some tips on how to make your home pool just a little bit safer. And but again, you brought it up at the beginning, just being vigilant on who's around, and not letting little ones or weak swimmers or somebody out there near the pool without having some guidance. You know, one more thing that I will add, if a child ever goes missing, check the water first. That's the first place to look, because if they're playing out back, you can take some time to find them then. But if they're in the water and they're in trouble, you need to get there first and have a look.
Right, and so things like tubing, fishing, boating, those are all really fun summer activities, but they could be dangerous if you're not, being responsible when you're doing that. So what steps would you take for people who maybe want to go tubing or jet skiing, things like that?
Sure, being responsible is a gateway to having fun, but you really need to know where you are. We don't know if we're in a river or at the ocean or in a stream, we don't know what's below the surface of the water. There can be rocks there can be logs, or even animals, that we don't know about. So we don't want to just go jumping off of an embankment or some kind of structure without knowing what's down there underneath. And always entering the water feet first, not with your head, is a much safer way to get into the water. So if you're going into a beach and you don't want to necessarily dive in when it's shallow water, you want to walk in, walk out until it's a certain depth. But just having a knowledge of what's happening in the water around you. Are there boats around? Like you said, are there jet skis? And making sure that you know your surroundings so that you can respond.
And so flotation devices, when you're doing things like that, of course, that's big.
Sure, there's again online. It's not the Red Cross's lane, but there's a lot of websites that show you what types of flotation devices each person should have. And there's 4 different kinds. There's life vests, there's near shore life vests, there's a flotation vest of another kind, and then there's throwable life preserver sort of things. So some watercraft are, a lot of watercraft are supposed to have them on board. If you get on a boat or something like that, after a certain length of after a certain feet in length, a boat is required to have a certain amount of life vests. But just making sure, if you're a weak swimmer, if you're a child, putting them in a vest when you're out and around the water, whether it's for sports or even if it's swimming, is just such a great peace of mind.
Right. Okay, thank you. Accidents can happen at home, and we'll discuss safety around the home when we return. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You're watching 22 News in Focus, and today we're talking about ways to keep you and your family safe and healthy over the summer. A recent Red Cross survey showed 3 in 5 adults have walked away from a grill while cooking, one of the leading causes of grilling fires, which cause more than 9,000 home fires on average each year. So of course, warmer weather barbecues, parties, things like that. How important is it to make sure that you're washing those hamburgers, those hot dogs, and even watching young children around that area?
Sure. You know what? As a big guy, I can't imagine walking away from the grill anyway in the first place, right? I mean, I love, love, love cooking and grilling, but a lot of people have a lot of different circumstances where they need to watch their kids at the same time. They might have a grill that's close to the house. The chances aren't worth it. There are so many, like you said, there are so many ways in which accidents can happen. So, and there's a big statistic on how many adults have walked away from a stove when they've been cooking. So, things like making sure that things aren't hanging over the edge of a grill so a kid walking past can grab it or use it. And it's not like the kids are trying to do anything, get in trouble, but they might walk by and lose their balance. You never know. So making sure that utensils and things like that aren't hanging off the edge so that they can grab them is a good idea. Also, a lot of people have their grills close to their home, and you never know when there's going to be a flare-up that catches on the siding or something like that, and then it's a whole new issue. Having fire extinguishers nearby is absolutely imperative. Also, not having the grill inside a building. A lot of people will do it inside their garage if it's a rainy day. Some people will pull the grill inside their garage and grill inside, and it's not just the fire you have to worry about, it's the carbon monoxide that you and your family might be breathing. So you just have to be careful. Just be careful about keeping everybody safe.
And in terms of safety, the National Safety Council found that in 2017, 8 people died and over 12,000 were treated for fireworks-related injuries. So of course, people could be continuing the celebrations. It is illegal to have fireworks in Massachusetts, but for people who do have them, what would you say?
Sure, don't take any chances, right? I mean, you don't. They're an explosive device. You want to make sure that you don't let little kids play with them. They're not a toy, and like you said, they are illegal. So. In the state of Massachusetts, but people do get them, right? So just having water around, having a fire extinguisher nearby, having dirt that you can dip like these sparkler things in. But also you don't want to leave the sparklers sticking out of the dirt because after they've gone out, they're still dangerous to people. So having buckets for things to put things in after they've gone out. But most importantly is keeping your eyes on the little ones, keeping your eyes on people. Don't drink while people are don't let don't dull your senses when you're playing around with these things that burn and explode, and just be careful with know your space too. Know where the people are. Some of these things project themselves, and you don't want to have them flying into other areas or other yards or other homes.
Right, and you were talking about sparklers. Sparklers burn at about 2,000 degrees. So talk about, the burns that you could get from a sparkler if you're not careful.
Sure. I mean, those we've seen for years. We've seen pictures, I think, of little kids holding sparklers, and we just kind of think of that as ubiquitous with summer and the fourth holiday. So but you have to be nearby. You have to have them within arm's reach. They can't go running out in the middle of the lawn running with sparklers. It's a wire. It's on fire. It's just something to be very, very, very careful of. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should be afraid of everything either, but having good, solid talks with your kids, making sure that they know how to extinguish them. What are the rules? Lay down some rules for the kids, even if they're not your kids. Everybody needs to know what the rules are, what the safety precautions are, what we're going to do if something happens, what we're going to do if something catches fire. Have a plan.
Right, and so talking about more summer dangers, things like, insects, of course, go hand in hand with the summer, and poisonous plants, poison ivy, things like that. How can you make sure that your backyard is safe and welcoming for everybody?
Well, there's a lot of different things that homeowners can do, but it's something that, again, protecting your skin is going to be very important for people, especially with people with allergies. So making sure that you're wearing something like a bug repellent or a mosquito repellent or something like that. It works on different types of bugs, but it's taking care of your skin folks are outdoors, you never know what kind of thing is going to happen into your yard, so you just want to be prepared for it.
Right, and we have a lot of wildlife here in Western Massachusetts. So let's say you are having a barbecue and maybe you see a fox or you see a coyote, a bear. What would you recommend somebody do?
I would run. That's what I would do. But yeah, I mean, there's get online with the Department of Natural Resources and see what their suggestions are. Again, for safety for your family, always having a plan. So if I have a house that's in a space where there are wild animals around, that's a conversation. That's a conversation to have with party guests that come over, that we might see something in the backyard, and here's what the DNR suggests that we do. Having a plan to get back into the house, having a plan to, making sure that we're keeping an eye on the kids that are out playing in the yard, and if there's a danger of something like that, if there's knowing your area and knowing what the options are for people to take shelter when something like that happens, it's just good advice.
And we see summer storms here in the area as well. So what should you do if you're caught outside in a lightning storm?
So taking shelter is the first and foremost thing that you should do, especially if you're around water, right? So if you can, they say that if you can hear the thunder, you're already in danger of a lightning strike. So if you're in the pool, if you're in the ocean, if you're in a body of water, get out of it. Don't hide under a tree. Don't hide under something that's tall or metal. You want to take refuge inside a house, inside a building, away from windows. If a storm comes up and there's hail, windows can break. So again, getting online, having a look at what to do in case we've got on redcross.org, there's different lists of things to do, what to do before, during, and after different types of emergencies, including thunderstorms. And you just want to make sure that you take precautions ahead of time, knowing that if a storm is coming, you want to have supplies. What if you lose power for a day or two? What do we need? Do we have anything that we need to run chargers for? Do we have any life-saving devices that we have? Does anybody have a medical device that they need to make sure that they've got to have power to? Again, it's a planning thing. We think about it every day, but sometimes it just bears a good reminder for the whole family to say, okay, does everybody know what to do in case ... happens?
And what should we have if we happen to be, trapped indoors after a storm for a while? There's no light, so should we have candles? Should we have, food that's not going to perish? What type of things should we have?
Right. So you want to stay away from candles because candles can start a fire in the home. Flashlights are always the best thing. So having flashlights and batteries are the best thing. Having a radio, a crank radio that you can crank for power in case you don't have power or you don't have a backup battery for them. It'll be able to give you weather information so that you can tell if something else is coming, and you can also find out when the power is going to come back on. Also having food and water to cover you for a few days. There's tips online at redcross.org to figure out how much food and water that you want per person. But there's just a lot of precautions that you can take ahead of something. Games, things to keep yourself and your kids occupied. Games, cards, electronic devices with backup batteries so that folks are entertained during the time, because that time without power can drag on for a while. So you just want to make sure that everybody's happy, everybody's getting along, and able to ride it out in a good and healthy way as a family.
All right, some great information. We'll have the last word for you after the break. Be sure to stay with us. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You've been watching 22 News in Focus. Today we've been talking about ways to keep you and your family safe and healthy over the summer, whether at home or away on a vacation. That's our program for today, and we want to thank our guests for joining us, of course, and thank you at home for watching. If you missed any of it, you can watch it in full on our website at wwlp.com. From all of us here at 22 News, have a great and happy summer.